In this video, we'll be discussing endogenous cycles. By the end of the video, you should be able to explain what an endogenous cycle is, what a Zeitgeber is, and understand the problems we can have with these endogenous cycles and how we can try to fix them. Our endogenous circadian rhythms regulate our consciousness. They operate on approximately a 24-hour cycle, with most circadian rhythms being a little bit over. They average about 24.15. So why do you think we function on a 24-hour cycle? What that surrounds us also operates on a 24-hour cycle? Think about it. Think about our planet. Why would we operate on a 24-hour cycle? The Earth. The Earth rotates on its axis every 24 hours. So what goes along with this rotation of the Earth that could be resetting our biological clocks every 24 hours? So what do you think resets that biological clock every morning? What happens with the rotation of the Earth? Sunlight. Every 24 hours, the sun comes up. These endogenous cycles can differ between people, which leads to different patterns of wakefulness and alertness. How many of you are morning people? How many of you are night owls? So they vary, and so even though it's on this 24-hour cycle, some of us are more apt to need to sleep at certain times than other people. But it still revolves around that light-dark cycle. These cycles can change as a function of age as well. As you can see here in this graph, if we look at on the axis here, we have time in the middle of sleep when there's no obligations. So say a weekend. So when you're 10, the time in the middle of sleep would be 3 a.m. for a male. So let's say they need 10 hours of sleep. That's waking up at 8 and going to bed at 10, which is probably a little late for a 10-year-old, but still, that's the average time. And it's a little bit later for a female. And then as we get older, it peaks in our 20s. And so that's why a lot of you might feel this natural need to stay up late. Not even need, but inability to fall asleep. And that's because the maximum time, or the time in the middle of your sleep, peaks in your early 20s. And then you can see here it starts to decline. This is also one of the reasons why, at least in California, the law has changed so that high schools can't start before 8:30. And I know some people still have to go for early morning practices and this, that, and the other thing. But overall, it allows, hopefully, teens to get a little bit more of the sleep that they need. So what happens when these rhythms get off? They can be hard to reset. And one of these situations is jet lag. So this is a disruption of the circadian rhythm due to crossing of time zones. So how many of you have been jet lagged before? It's not fun, right? And the farther you go, most often the harder it is to recover. So when we travel east, it's harder because of the time change. It's called a phase advance. So think about it. You fly to New York and you try to go to bed at your normal bedtime, maybe 10 p.m. What time is it on the West Coast? It's only 7. I think you go to sleep very easily? No, not unless you're like my husband, who can sleep anytime, anywhere, any place. And in the morning, if you need to get up for an 8 a.m. meeting, what time is it in California? 5 a.m. I know I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. That sounds horrible. So it's harder when you're traveling east. When you're traveling west, it's a little easier. Of course, only if the time change is not too big. When we're traveling west, it's called a phase delay. Our circadian rhythms make us want to go to bed later and wake up later. And so it's delaying our circadian rhythm. But now that we know the Zeitgeber is light, what do you think the best way to get up to adjust to this? Getting up 3 hours earlier if you travel to New York. When you get up, get outside, get some of that bright light on your face, and that'll help reset that biological clock to 3 hours earlier. And at night, stay away from sources of bright light like your phone or your TV. So jet lag leads to sleepiness during the day, sleeplessness at night, and impaired concentration. Just an example. I haven't traveled a great distance in a while, so I'll have to use another friend's example. So they went to Greece over the summer, and they traveled to Ireland the year before. When they came back, they didn't feel like they were quite as jet lagged, but it took them almost a full week coming back from Greece to readjust. I think part of it was maybe the the traveling all day during the day. So they were basically up for almost a full 24 hours before being able to go to sleep. So for about a week, they couldn't stay up past 8 p.m. So again, that's that phase advance at play, with jet lag leading to sleepiness during the day, sleeplessness at night, and impaired concentration. Shift work is can also be a problem. Think about those that have to work at night: police officers, firemen, nurses, many other types of jobs. Even after years of working night shift, workers may have trouble sleeping during the day, at least for the needed 7 to 8 hours. So mostly when we talk about the stages of sleep, that if you don't sleep for that amount of time, you're not getting the right type of sleep at the right time, and you may not be reaping the benefits of sleep. Buildings have light, but not enough to reset the biological clock, or not the right type. And it can be difficult to sleep during the day because of sounds and light that's coming from outside. And unfortunately, there are disparities in those who have this shift work. And this shift work, again, it's troubling because you have trouble sleeping during an unnatural time. So a 2024 study showed that younger workers, 15 to 24, lower income and less educated workers, and Black workers have higher rates of working non-daytime shifts. And as we'll learn, this not only has an effect on sleepiness and concentration, but sleep is important for our health. So it can have long-term negative repercussions, not just for our physical health, but our mental health. So as we move forward, hopefully you'll see the need for sleep and the problems with making sure we reset that biological clock appropriately.